3, 2, 1, start. The present civil suit has been instituted by the plaintiff seeking recovery of damages on account of an alleged breach of contract committed by the defendant. According to the plaintiff, the parties entered into a written agreement whereby the defendant undertook to supply certain goods within the period specifically mentioned in the agreement. It was further agreed that the goods would conform to the quality and specifications prescribed by the plaintiff and that payment would be released after satisfactory delivery and inspection. The plaintiff contended that a substantial amount was paid to the defendant as advance consideration at the time of execution of the agreement. Despite receiving the amount, the defendant failed to supply the goods within the stipulated period. Several requests and reminders were allegedly made, but no satisfactory response was received. The plaintiff ultimately issued a legal notice calling upon the defendant either to perform his contractual obligations or to refund the advance amount together with compensation for the loss suffered. The defendant appeared before the court and filed a written statement denying the allegations. It was pleaded that the delay had occurred due to circumstances beyond his control and that the plaintiff had subsequently altered the specifications of the goods. According to the defendant, additional time was required to comply with the modified requirements. It was further submitted that the plaintiff had prematurely terminated the contract and therefore was not entitled to claim damages. On the basis of the pleadings of the parties, the trial court framed appropriate issues regarding the existence of a valid contract, breach of contractual obligations, entitlement to refund and the quantum of damages. Both parties were afforded sufficient opportunity to lead their respective evidence. The plaintiff produced the original document, payment receipt, correspondence exchanged between the parties, and a copy of the legal notice. The defendant also entered the witness box and relied upon certain electronic communications in support of his defense. It is a settled principle of law that parties to a lawful agreement are bound to perform their respective promises unless such performance is excused under the provisions of law. Where one party fails or refuses to perform an essential obligation, the aggrieved party may be entitled to appropriate relief, including compensation for the loss which naturally arose in the usual course of events from such breach. However, damages cannot be awarded merely on the basis of an allegation. The person claiming compensation must establish that an actual loss was suffered and that such loss was reasonably connected with the breach. Complaint of remote or speculative losses ordinarily cannot form the basis of an award of compensation. Upon examination of the documentary and oral evidence, the court finds that the agreement clearly prescribed a definite period for delivery. There is no convincing material on record to establish that the plaintiff had agreed to extend that period. The communications relied upon by the defendant also do not demonstrate any unconditional modification of the original terms. The evidence further shows that the plaintiff granted reasonable opportunities to the defendant to fulfill the contractual obligations before terminating the agreement. Consequently, the contention that the contract was terminated without sufficient notice cannot be accepted. In these circumstances, the court is satisfied that the defendant failed to perform his obligations within the agreed period and thereby committed breach of the contract. The plaintiff is therefore entitled to refund of the advance consideration together with reasonable interest. As regards additional damages, only such amount as has been proved by reliable evidence can be granted. Accordingly, the suit is decreed partly in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is directed to refund the advance amount along with interest at the rate determined by the court from the date of institution of suit until realization. The parties shall bear their respective costs. The decree sheet be prepared accordingly and the file be consigned to the record room after due compliance. Stop.